Hi, and welcome back to another unboxing episode of Filipino Time. Today, we have here the Swatch and Omega Moonwatch, specifically the Mission to Venus. So just a brief background before we get started. This is the infamous yet shocking collaboration between Omega, who are well respected for their engineering milestones, and Swatch, the budget-friendly Swiss watchmaker. If you haven't figured it out yet, that's why the model is called the MoonSwatch, a combination of the Speedmaster being known as the Moonwatch and, of course, Swatch. Many actually saw this as a marketing stint on Swatch's end so that everyone has a chance to own a Speedy. But some complain saying it's sacrilege for Swatch to have done such a thing to Omega, supposedly giving less value to the Moonwatch for what it's worth by making it more accessible, but in actuality, increased hype and value for the original Omega Speedmaster with recently soaring prices. Anyway, the ball is in Swatch's hands since Omega is under the Swatch group, along with Hamilton, Blancpain, and many others. Another important reminder to take note of is that the MoonSwatch is not, I repeat, not a limited edition piece, as explained by Swatch and official Swatch stores. So if you're still keen on getting one yourself, you should just wait when lines ease up. Don't fall into the trap of buying from scalpers. So, without further delay, let's get into it. First things first, we have the box. So taking a look at the sleeve, which I feel is the most interesting part of the unboxing experience. We have a pink sleeve over here showing its connection to the Mission to Venus model, as the model itself is pink, as you'll see later. And the color of the sleeve varies per MoonSwatch model. As presented on the underside of the sleeve, you still have several other variants to pick from, aside from the Mission to Venus, and of course aside from the original Mission to Moon. All based on the planets within and near our solar system. So as you can see, Mission to Venus, part of the Bioceramic MoonSwatch collection. Another interesting part of the sleeve would be the facts and stats that Swatch presents about Venus. So as you can see, it says that the temperature of Venus is around 462 degrees Celsius. It's known as the hottest planet. It has no moon and has powerful winds. And that the surface is so hot, it can actually melt lead. So some interesting things to take note of regarding Venus. As we take out the sleeve, we have our main box that showcases the collaboration between Omega and Swatch. And there we have it, the Mission to Venus. What we have inside, of course, are our papers, manual, and a catalog about the other variants. As for the dimensions, we have a 42mm diameter. It's around 13mm thick and has a 20mm lug width. So the overall dimension design is trying to stay true to that of the original Moonwatch. So MoonSwatches, as the name suggests, were made by Swatch to look like the original Moonwatch, but with a fun twist. Obviously, it's still a chronograph, so it still has the 3 subdials and other chronograph features. But they actually came out as funky releases. Of course, other than that of the original colorway, also known as the Mission to the Moon. But more on that later. The piece is known to be made of bioceramic, which is 1/3 biosourced plastic mixed with 2/3 of ceramic. So this is part of Swatch's sustainability program to use biosourced plastic. However, it's backfiring as people complain about its fragility, most notably the buttons popping off within months of use and where the color starts to melt off onto the skin. As a chronograph, obviously you have your buttons, you have your start and stop button, and your reset button. So each MoonSwatch actually has its own signature characteristic. As for the Mission to Venus, it has a more feminine design with the pink and cream colorway, and it has these ring patterns around the subdials. Giving the illusion that the subdials are much less round and more oval. Other details include the Speedmaster inspired hands and indices with lume. So as always, we will provide a lume shot by the end of the video. And the words Omega, Swatch, Speedmaster, MoonSwatch, and Swiss made on the dial. As for the crystal, it's not surprising for a Swatch. It's just plastic that's quite easy to scratch, but if you think about it, having a plastic crystal is like Swatch's way of being authentic to the original Speedy's Hesalite, which several purists recommend to purchase over the Sapphire Sandwich to stay true to the original Moonwatch. Although there's an additional Easter egg through having a Swatch logo etched on the center of the dome, like Omega and their logo on the center of the Speedy's crystal. However, to get a better look, it's recommended to use a loupe, as it's quite difficult to capture on camera. Moving on to the strap, we have this astronaut inspired Velcro strap, which once again showcases the piece as the Speedmaster's MoonSwatch, Mission to Venus. we once again get the name of the variant, Mission to Venus, and another Easter egg being the battery cover being an image of the planet it is based on. So the battery cover has a picture of Venus. And while looking at the case back, you can see other specs of the watch being water resistant, having 4 jewels, and as well as inspirational quotes and phrases along the rim. Dream big, fly higher, explore the universe, reach for the planets, and enjoy the mission. More on the movement. It is powered by an ETA quartz movement that Swatch has been using in their previous chronograph releases. Now it's time to compare the MoonSwatch to the real MoonWatch. So what I have here is a fairly modern release of the MoonWatch. You can obviously see the similarities of the chronograph features, the 3 subdials, the indices, the similar handset, and even the buttons. Going for a side profile. So instead of just the Omega logo on the crown, we have the Omega and Swatch collaboration logo. And for the sake of it, I also brought along a Speedmaster Mark II reissue. For you guys to compare with. If you see any other similarities. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. So finally, we have our wrist shot. As for me, it feels very light, like it's not even there, which is one of the things I do not look forward to when wearing a watch. I prefer heavier watches. But overall, I think it's still a cool piece to obtain at least one of the several offerings Swatch has in store. So with that, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Filipino Time Unboxing. We hope that you enjoyed this one. If you did, feel free to give us a like, to subscribe. And with that, we'll see you next time.